Okay, so I'm thinking about what's at stake. What do you feel is at stake right now? And what do the people need to see in order for that to hit home?
It's a great moment, Nath, because we've done 9 episodes, and what we've covered so far is amazing, and it may be too much for people at large to understand. And I'm imagining, if our founding fathers, mothers, elders, 1776ers were here now. Let's say they appeared in Philadelphia to observe what's going on and listen to us and look around at the culture. I mean, it's pretty astounding because I think they would be appalled and alarmed. They'd be impressed in certain ways, but I think they'd be alarmed. Because think of what we've covered so far. We've said that we've not yet listened to the unfinished American Revolution. We're still having old world patterns of thinking that are holding us captive. We're still colonized by the mind. And our culture is colonized culture. It has a depression and a kind of virus. We talked about the matrix effect. We talked about we're not the land of the free. We're a land of ideology. And that's not the highest and best version of ourselves as persons. I mean, all the great wisdom teachers knew that a person is an officer of logos, of the law, of the moral law, of the rational law, critical thinking, not ideologically bound and cultic and tribal. That's not what it means to be people. And we the people is a call of the 1776ers. And when you think, Nath, of the trust of all the sacrifice and the trustees, they made us the future generations, their trustees, and bestowed on us, bequeathed to us, the holy experiment. Do people understand what that is? I wonder. We use the words. Holy experiment is a big deal. Couldn't be bigger. It was almost an evolutionary hope and faith and call. Can we pull off a we the people democracy of self-governance? Could we rise to that occasion and create, for the first time in history, a true republic, a political space, a civic space that everyone in our deep diversity would have our sacred individual voice, but also always be unum pluribus, we the people, one nation under source. They were calling and tapping the source. Because we know in our journey together here that the founders are not the individuals, but what they were tapping was a miracle. They're tapping the logos, which is all through the centuries, east, west, north, south. We're trying to get the logos, the light of reason, whatever name we use. And the law of reason, the law of the land should be e pluribus unum. Pluribus, multiplicity, but always in unity. So I think if our elders were here and going through the 9 episodes, I think they would be thrilled to see that did women get the right to vote? Yeah. Did we call an end to slavery in one form? Yeah. Did we even go through civil rights and desegregation? Yeah. Were we seeking to call out racism and sexism and homophobia? Good. All of that's good. But are we still bound? Even after 250 years? That's my concern, Nath, is that the sacred trust of the holy experiment is, can we become a republic? Not how to save our democracy, but can we enter into true democracy and be a beacon on the hill, a city of light, and Philadelphia, brotherly love city, nation of we the people, one nation under source, indivisible, under law. And I think in terms of what we've done so far at this point, that to suggest that we're still colonized, and that's our unfinished American evolution revolution. It's a bold thing to say, that we're not a democracy, we're not a political civic space, we're not civilized. Because unless we reach rationality, a rational life, which is the moral consciousness and moral law of dialogue in respect, then we haven't crossed into a true democracy space yet. And I think we haven't. And I think if they looked around right now, and I think they would resonate to what we're bringing out in these 9 episodes and getting ready to go deeper. And your beautiful preamble, and your music, your songs, your lyrics, and taking the old relics of the past and seeing them as tapping their logos power as relics of the future. They would they would applaud that, I think. And they would be also appalled at what's going on in our culture right now, especially as we enter this year of election. A serious traumatic impeachment is in process, and it seems to be falling apart, and we don't have the same constitutional understanding, and due process is broken. The question is our president really following the laws and upholding the Constitution? Are our Congress people, men and women, senators, congressmen and women, our judges, are we upholding the Constitution? Have we taken the oath of office? All of this is in question. And I think what we've been suggesting in our journey, as you've held a space as co-host with this series, is that to be a human being is to take an oath as a rational being. People don't understand that. If you're just still in the Lego land, in the Lego mind, the ego-based, me first, my agenda, my program, my vote, my will, my ego will is my will, that's not free will. If I'm laboring under ideology, in that adolescent form of our rational life and rational development, we are not yet matured as full persons, as first persons. First meaning tapping what's first, being, reality. The 1776 code. And if we're not persons, philosophers knew to be an awakened moral free agent is to be a person. That's a high status. And unless you shake off the shackles of ideology and tribalism and uncritical thinking, then you're in effect sheeple. You're not people. You're followers. You're hackable. You're cultic. You're fanatic. You're fans. You're zealots. These are not marks of a high citizen. And I wonder if people are getting that. It doesn't look good. I think we're on the brink after 250 years. If our elders were here now, they would worry when Ben Franklin say, a republic, if we can keep it, it's not that we keep it, can we do it? Can we enter into it? And I think when I think north of how we're seen around the world right now, allegedly as the leaders of the free world, it's a mockery. Frankly, I'm ashamed. Is it proud to be American in this moment? When there's a question of can a senator take an oath of office and have a fair trial, and we're even debating that. That means due process. Due process is high. It's rational due process. It's putting the law first. It's not us first. It's not my agenda. It's not my party. It's not partisan. Being a rational being is not being a partisan. It's a kind of apartheid. If I'm in my ideology and my base elected me to hold up that ideology and they're controlling my freedom as an officer of Congress or the Oval Office, most of all, I'm worried that we're not yet citizens. To be a citizen is to take an oath and pledge allegiance to the Constitution, as trustees. Citizens are trustees entrusted by our founders of can you enter into the powerful sacred space, rational space of we the people of a democracy, demos, or are we sheeple? And I look around and I see a lot of cultic behavior and tribal thinking and apartheid, kind of partisan. And as a philosopher studying for decades the call of human reason, reason is not lodged in any one ideology or any ideology. The ideological mind, we pointed out the matrix and the matrix effect. That's a frontier evolutionary invitation in these 9 sessions, and we have raised some deep. It should be troubling to any listener, any viewer who would go with us really and listen, to suggest we're not free people when we allege to be leaders of the free world. That is serious. And I fear that as people enter into this next electoral system with worried of, is Russia hacking our votes, or could anyone else be externally hacking? When it is clear that if you're not people, if you're not persons, if you haven't taken an oath of office as a citizen, then we are hackable. Sheeple, if you're not a person and you're just following some ideology, then it's adolescent. We haven't matured as persons yet.
What does that really mean for the average American, the average person who's just living their life? They're focused on their immediate sphere, their family, their paying their bills, paying their mortgage, ensuring that they can retire in comfort and their kids are off to college and that are just absorbed. They work all week and, just want to hang out with their buds and watch the game on the weekend and not necessarily are thinking about, what it means to be a citizen, and may very well just be taking for granted the rights that we enjoy now. What would you say to the everyday person about what it means to be a citizen, like a real citizen, and not be a sheep mind?
That's a great question in terms of our journey as we enter into the next trilogy of episodes 10, 11, 12. If I wish I could have a heart-to-heart, one-on-one with every American citizen, and call out invitationally into a dialogue to vote in the sense that we're saying in a responsible officer vote, when it's not my agenda. What you describe is what we see, this is a typical American person. People enjoying their lives. That's the American way. That's one view of it. That's normal. But when we look at the net effect of our culture and the anxiety and the depression and the worries about the future, and the insecurities, and the worried about is our electoral process intact, or are we hackable by external forces? And all of this talk about fake news and deep state and collusion and conspiracy and all of these troubling ideas in our culture right now, in the civic, and people are realizing we're better than this. What we're doing, what's going on in the civic space, the raging ideological war of one, in the city of brotherly love, there's a war going on, a civil war, and endless, since the founding. And I think our founders would note that and realize, wow, over these 250 years, look what happened in the American polis. It's amazing. As it's diversified and extended way beyond where they were in all levels. It's clearly that we're a multicultural society. The demos of America, the political space, is a multicultural, multi-world, multi-religious, multi-perspective. And if we respect individuality, pluribus, and we don't have an unum, we're in trouble. The unum meaning the unity of reason, the light of reason, in the space of diversity. E pluribus unum. We haven't done that. So I would want to say, if I were to have a heart-to-heart with my fellow Americans, and everyone is precious, everyone. I don't care what your ideology is. I would look into their eyes and say, have you voted yet? Truly? Have you taken an oath of office as a human, a rational, to follow the logos, the light of reason, conscience, the moral law of I and thou, of respect for myself and others and other views? And I would invite people to look into their hearts right now, because there's a sense that the election situation is not only in danger of being hacked, because if people are sheeple, I hate to use that word because it sounds disrespectful, but every human being, as a logo sapien, is noble and high and potentially free and autonomous. I want to hold that deep respect for every human. But if you're still a follower of an ideology or tribal thinking and pre-critical, you haven't made the critical turn. We've done the 7 stages of becoming a citizen, of deep dialogue. That's one of our sessions. I wonder if people understand that not everyone gets to stage 1, stage unum, to step back from privileging your lens, that we have a lens. People don't know what lensitivity is. Lensitivity is becoming aware. OMG, I have a lens and I'm interpreting everything. I didn't realize that. And if my method and practice of interpretation is myopic and short-sighted, and I'm fixed in a lens that becomes ideology and tribal, and I didn't realize that, that's a huge step in stage 1 of becoming an awakened citizen and a full person. So to what you said so beautifully, the everyday person, and never to lose respect for everyday person struggling to make ends meet and have a job and enjoy the game and be entertained and have their basic conditions met and have an income that's reasonable. All this is legitimate. But it doesn't eclipse our responsibility in terms of the call of 1776, the sacred trust, to rise together to a democracy. And I think we haven't done that yet. And I think the present slinging back and forth in the Civil War, we're in the deep Civil War that's been ongoing. Have we really overcome racism deeply? The call of Martin Luther King, for example, I have a dream. I may not get there with you. Where? Get where? To the promised land. What's that? It's not physical space. It's the space of a civic culture. It's rational space. Why? Because that's where brotherly love across borders and respect for the other, even though I have my passion and my view. You don't have to be an ideologue and be a zealot and be a fanatic and vote fanatically. That's not a vote. When you vote in the colonized space, it's not a true vote. And I would like to have a heart-to-heart with my fellow Americans out of love and respect and say, please, before you ever vote again in this 2020 election, pause and ask, am I a person? Am I an awakened rational being, a critical thinker, thinking for myself in my deep conscience and my heart? Have I ever voted to put Logos, the 1776 Code of USA, the sacred land that we're alleging to enter, first? And when I vote for that, and not for what I want and my personal me first, what I want, my needs. I'm not belittling my needs, but if you put that first and you fall into a program and an ideologue and ideology of this is mine, then you become sheeple and not people. So to rise to we the people is the heart of entering into democracy. To be first persons. First meaning tapping what's first, being the Logos, 1776, the call. And I think not that our elders coming now to visit, looking around and seeing the collapse of due process. And this impeachment drama is bringing it out. When we have to say that there's going to be a trial in the Senate, but people already made up their mind. And that's it. And I'll take an oath. Now that to take an oath is very sacred. I solemnly swear on source, on what is higher, to do my utmost to uphold the Constitution, the laws, the Logos, the sacred Logos of our land. That's an oath means I've got to step out of my ideology, out of my whatever narrative I've subscribed to and it's captured my mind. And we've been helping in these 9 episodes to bring that out with no nonsense. We've been saying it. What you ask, how are people getting at that? So I hope not. I hope as we go deeper, I don't want to just keep forging on. Right? It's good to take, I'm glad we're having this moment to be, so to speak, off camera. And, and just have a heart-to-heart between us about are people getting this? Because bottom line, I feel and fear in the light of our elders and in the light of all the wisdom of the planet, calling us to be persons, to rise to the place of first person, being a first person. I don't think we've done that yet as a people. And that we could be aborting the sacred trust of the holy experiment to become a republic for the first time on earth. And when others around the world are watching us, allegedly as a model, it does not look good now. It's bad. It's bad. It's almost a laughing stock right now. And you could be ashamed of that. We should be proud. So I think we're in danger of aborting this sacred seed of the possibility of becoming a democracy. It's not that we're going to lose it. Some people say we've got to save our democracy. My question with you in our journey is, have we yet become a democracy? A demos, we the people? Or are we still lodged in colonial ways, patterns of tribal, localized, me-first thinking, and falling into ideologies and choosing sides as if the voting process, from that point of view, is like a Super Bowl game that we have to somehow see if we can win. Even at every cost, we got to win. That's not democracy. And that we could be blowing the sacred. How many years more do we need? We have 250 years in the holy experiment. An experiment can fail. So I feel we're on the brink of losing the most precious entrustment. We're not being trustees of that trust and officers of the Logos law and upholding the Constitution. When I pledge allegiance to the flag, and we're asking in one of our sessions, we haven't yet gotten the unum pluribus flag, the sacred flag of USA. And the question in the Civil War that we're in right now, duking out in a kind of almost like a mob-like vote showdown, will the flag be there? And we've reached a crisis point now, I think. That's after 250 years. If you have a virus, the virus worsens. The colonial virus that inflicts our people has reached a point, metastasized to a point that we could blow it. We could blow it now. And I think that's what we're passionately in our 1776. Now we have to be co-founders. To be a responsible citizen, we've got to really have the heart and courage. If you say we're the land of the brave, the home of the brave, what is brave? It's courage. To what? To dare to step back from our pet ambitions and views and stories and narratives of ourselves and get human, become adults. Stop being squabbling kids in childish ways, slinging across the aisle at each other our narratives. That's very self-indulgent, and now it's dangerous. We could blow it. We could blow the entrustment that was bequeathed to us by our elders to, dude, form a democracy. Get woke. Grow up. Learn to vote first for upholding the Constitution, the law, and not what I want. So I don't blame people for having wants and needs and desires and wanting the basics of life and having that American dream. But if that's what you think the dream is, then it's going to turn into a nightmare. It's not Martin Luther King's dream. It's not the dream of Jesus. It's not the dream of yoga, Buddha, Socrates. Socrates drank hemlock to stop and confront the sophistry around him in Athens. What is sophistry? It's being the Lego mind. It's being colonized. It's taking my opinion to be true, rather than truth is higher. That's serious. And right now, when you look at the news and you look at what's going on, who's truth? Who's got the facts? We've got alternative facts. So we're in sophistry. I hate to say it now, it sounds severe, that all the bright people and intellectuals and thoughtful people, God bless us all. People are trying our best, okay? We are. But sophistry is being under the sway of that adolescent stage of reason that we call single bracket reason that eclipses us from a deeper access to the Logos, to the founding laws and principles and visions of we hold these truths to be self-evident. You don't get that in ego mind. You get that when you tap the Logos. Socrates drank hemlock 2,500 years ago to confront sophistry, and look where we are now. In Plato's Republic, justice. Plato made it clear, until wisdom is in the culture, you can't have justice in the society. And here we are again. It's pathetic. If this is a land, one nation, under source, under Logos, with liberty and justice for all, e pluribus unum, we don't have that. So when we say, what's the state of the union? It doesn't look good, because there is no union. That's one of our episodes. We're divided. We're scattered. We're shattered. We're tattered. There's depression in the culture. Oh, what's going on with the kids? Our kids are hurting. I look at my kids in the college when they are feeling lost, anxious. What the hell is the future going to be? And education is just training people more and more in the same old colonized reason, information. Google information. That's a stage important. We know that. But informationized wisdom and informationized democracy is not it. You can't Google democracy. You can't Google being a person. And if you're going to live by information and informationism, and so my belief and my opinion is true because I believe it, and not a higher truth, then we're done. We've had 250 years to pull this off. And we don't have another 250 years. And it looks like the virus has gotten worse and worse in the culture. And looking at what's going on right now, in the Civil War, of clash of ideologies and perspectives and pet ambitions and personal private interests above preserving the trust of a democracy. We can blow it. And you know what, Nath? It doesn't matter who wins the next election. We'll all lose unless we get to the real heart of the virus. And stop and realize that sheeple, adolescent, pre-humans, sheeple are not yet people. And I hate to say it, it sounds strong language. But just between you and me, I think that's great. So if I could have a one-on-one heart-to-heart with all of my fellow Americans, a personal look in the eye, and say, have you voted yet? Vote in the sense like taking that oath to be an officer. A person is an officer of Logos. We're all implicitly taking an oath. I pledge allegiance, symbolically of the flag of this republic. Do we know what we're saying? When you take an oath this way, you're taking an oath to put Logos, the law, first. It's above us. We say no one's above the law. That's right. We have laws, but we can all say, well, that's your interpretation, it's my interpretation. That's your view of Amendment 2 or 3 or whatever. I can do anything, all that stuff. We can squabble about laws in the colonized space, but the law, you don't vote on the law. The law votes on us. To be a citizen is to take the oath of office. And that's a primary. Let's call that election the primary, to say, I hereby agree to be an awakened, mature, adult, rational being. And in that light, in that oath, I will put the law first, the moral law of I, thou, in sacred space of democracy. That's the oath. And how many of us have voted now? I'm asking, amongst us, how many have voted in that sense? Because the vote, the ego vote, the me vote, the Lego vote, is not yet a vote. We haven't yet voted. And so it's tampered with the electoral system, the sacred electoral process that we try. People know it's in danger. If our electoral system is not just hackable outside, we could be the primary hackers. Because sheep are not yet free people. We've said that in our episodes. That's pretty serious stuff we're saying. So sheeple are hackers in a way. They're hacking the law. They're hacking the source. They're hacking reason. So we could be the ones who are in an implicit collusion and conspiracy to stay in that normalized, colonized, tribal, comfy. We think it's comfy, but it's taking us down. And so we, the sheeple, are not we the people. And I think if our elders were here right now, they would look. And I hate to say it, even though we've made progress in a certain way, we haven't yet pulled off what I think they were calling us to. We hold these truths to be self-evident in the light of Logos, that we're endowed by the source, by the Logos, with unalienable rights, life, liberty, well-being. We haven't done that yet. And it's not just the American scene, it's across the planet. All our great elders and scriptures, in different ways, whether it's Allah, surrender to Allah, Allah first. Om, yoga first. Socrates, leave the cave and come into the light of reason. That's our journey, to become a self. Buddha, get into the dharma of Buddha, to be awakened and end the suffering of being colonized. It's a planetary affliction. And when we do this, we're doing it not just for the American, we're looking at the American lab, but we're addressing all the humans on this planet. Because democracy is not an American thing. It's a Logos thing. It's a global thing. And all of the other people around the planet who are trying hard to get to become a democracy and look to us as a beacon, allegedly, I'm not pleased with where we are right now. So I'm sorry we took so long, because I know we have to run along and do some other things, and we paused to have this.
That was amazing.
Heart to heart. But you thought, well,
Yeah.
that I would call on my fellow humans, Americans here in particular, in this 77th tour. Have you ever voted? Not voted your will, my will, what I want, and my candidate. I'm shopping for my candidate I want. That's baby stuff. Sorry. That's irresponsible. Or have I voted, as a trustee of USA? That's a big deal. to enter the contract with we the people. And to open up the dialogue, real deep dialogue, as we pointed out in the 7 stages of becoming a human being, of becoming a rational, critical thinker, an adult human, an American citizen. Dialogue is not an option for reason. It is a heart of reason. And so that's serious what we're calling on our fellow Americans to look at now. As we enter this vote, I hope not that every American, pre-citizen, will ask himself, herself, am I a citizen? Am I a mature, rational person? Am I a free agent? Or have I been colonized? That's serious. How am I raising my children? Am I cultifying them in the cultic space of tribal thinking and patterns from the old world, so to speak? Or have we made that bold transition of courage to be a whole person, a mature person, which is a citizen? How many citizens are there? So I think we need to all look in our hearts as we enter this next election, not in next November 2020, but right now, everyone, to go into the primary. Am I a primary, awakened, rational, competent, qualified, literate citizen? Putting the trust, my role as trustee of this great trust, of can we pull off a democracy, the miracle of that? Or are we going to abort that and let it slip away? Because that would be tragic. And we're all in that Titanic together. If we don't pull this off, it's as if we're on a cultural Titanic, rather than Noah's Ark, rising to the awakened citizenship, where love and brotherhood, sisterhood can flourish in Philadelphia, the city of sisterly love, where this founding took place. That's the question. So when we go to vote, it's not in the voting booth and the machine. It's deeper than that and prior to that. Am I qualified to go into that booth? Have I taken my oath? To truly vote, have I become a citizen? I'm hoping, deeply as we go on that our fellow citizens, we love everyone. Whatever your ideology, we're not choosing sides here. The vote before us is to vote in the old way, which is hacked and rigged. Or are we going to really vote, each of us, in our conscience and our heart vote, to qualify me to become a citizen and vote as a citizen, which is an officer, a human, a person? Am I going as sheeple? Blindly, cultically, tribally, partisan? A rational being is not partisan. You can't be a partisan and rational. You can't be an ideologue. And if you have an ideology and you're going into the White House, let's say, and you take an oath, you got to strip and drop that, as the Call of 77 made clear. You got to separate from that to enter the office. If you enter the president's office, you have to become presidential for all the people, but not just for the people, but for the sacred trust of upholding the Constitution. You got to understand it. Understand the logos, the laws of reason. That's huge. You can't import it's not you going to the office with your partisan view, a narrative, and impose that on all the people. That's incompetent. You can't do that in Congress. You can't do it in the Senate. You can't do it as a judge. You can't do it in the Supreme Court. And if we don't understand that the three equal branches of government are not separate branches, there is an unum that holds it together. The presumption of 1776, you know this, is that logos is unum pluribus, reason, coherence. That's the presumption of 1776. That's the foundation. And if we think that the judiciary is separate and the legislative is separate and each is equal and each has power and we're not in dialogue, we're done. It's over. And we're seeing signs of that now. The presidential office saying no. Congress is saying yes. Judiciary, what? It's going to take too much time. It was not three separate, it was always in dialogue. Unum pluribus, diversity and unity. That's the law of reason. That's the law of 1776. And I think people don't understand that. And what an amazing call it is for us to become a full person, a mature, rational being, an officer of the logos, an officer of the law, as qualified to vote and to be in democracy. I hope all of our fellow Americans will find it in their hearts to do that primary and ask that question. Am I a trustee of 1776? That's what we're saying for 1776 now. Now it's now. We have to be co-founders. It's not that we got it and we're going to follow rules that were given to us. That's missing it. We have to dare to be co-founders with our 1776 elders, because it's not them, it's the Logos law that they were opening up for us. The vote now is to save the possibility of our dialogue and not abort our land of the free. We got to do it now. And when we vote in November, that should be the leading and sole concern in the heart of every human that's a citizen or claims to be a citizen. I hope that could happen. And that's what we're trying to communicate with our brothers and sisters across this land. Anyway, I know I took a while to share. Thanks for listening. And I pray now in Logos, in the light of Logos, that we see God bless America. Logos, source, bless America. Land of the free, home of the brave, e pluribus unum. I hope and pray that we can make it. That's the vote. We all have to vote up, to human up. And take co-responsibilities as co-founders. We have to, for the first time, have a fiduciary, trustee, co-founders with our elders to enter into true democracy. That's my wish and my hope. Let's hope.
All right.
Let's run along and get on with what we have to do now.
All right, cool. Beautiful.